Imagine waking up in an East African forest 150,000 years ago. There are no supermarkets, no warning labels. No one can tell you which leaf will feed you and which bright red berry could stop your heart within minutes. Around you grow more than 300,000 plant species, many armed with chemical toxins designed to kill anything that dares to eat them. Yet our ancestors survived. How? The answer wasn't luck. It was an extraordinary combination of biological instincts and cultural knowledge. A living library written not on paper, but in memory, observation, and generations of lives risked for every meal. Long before humans invented science, evolution had already built a chemical detection system into our bodies. Every bitter taste you have ever disliked may have saved one of your ancestors' lives. Humans possess around 25 TAS2R genes dedicated to detecting bitterness, but only 2 for sweetness. Evolution made one priority clear: avoiding poison mattered more than finding dessert. Many plant toxins, especially alkaloids, trigger these bitter receptors the instant they touch the tongue. But taste is only the first line of defense. Your sense of smell constantly scans the air for signs of decay, toxins, or spoiled food, while the emotion of disgust acts as an ancient emergency brake, pushing you away before danger reaches your stomach. Some people carry a variation of the TAS2R38 gene that makes them super tasters. For them, vegetables like Brussels, sprouts, or kale can taste intensely bitter. What feels like an inconvenience today may once have been a life-saving advantage. Children are even more cautious. Between the ages of 2 and 6, they have a higher density of taste buds and are naturally suspicious of unfamiliar foods. What many parents call picky eating may actually be an evolutionary survival program. What about you? Are you someone who enjoys bitter foods like black coffee and dark chocolate, or do you avoid them whenever possible? Let us know in the comments. Our ancestors did not wander through the forest randomly tasting every unfamiliar plant. That would have been a shortcut to extinction. Instead, they followed a cautious survival protocol, one that modern wilderness experts still recognize as the universal edibility test. The process began with the skin. A crushed leaf was rubbed against a sensitive area, such as the inside of the elbow. If burning, itching, or a rash appeared within a few hours, the experiment ended immediately. If nothing happened, the next step was even smaller. A tiny piece touched the lips, then rested briefly on the tip of the tongue. Any tingling, numbness, or chemical burn was treated as a warning. Only then came the greatest risk: swallowing a microdose and waiting an entire 24 hours. Nausea, stomach cramps, vomiting, or diarrhea could reveal hidden toxins before a fatal amount had been consumed. There was another critical rule: change only one variable at a time. Eating 3 unfamiliar plants together meant you would never know which one had poisoned you. It sounds simple, but this strategy transformed a potentially deadly mistake into one that could be survived, giving future generations another chance to learn. Do you think you would have had the patience to wait 24 hours before taking a second bite, or would curiosity have won? Tell us what you think below. Watching animals was one of humanity's oldest survival strategies. If birds, monkeys, or deer could eat a plant without dying, perhaps humans could too. At first glance, it seemed like a brilliant shortcut. In reality, it could become a deadly trap. Take the deadly nightshade. Many birds can eat its berries because their digestive systems absorb very little atropine, the toxin that can cause hallucinations, blindness, heart failure, and death in humans. What is harmless to a bird can be fatal to us. The same is true for hemlock. Sheep and goats can consume surprisingly large amounts thanks to their multi-chambered stomachs and specialized gut microbes that help neutralize coniine. A human attempting the same experiment could suffer respiratory paralysis and die within hours. So our ancestors learned a more intelligent rule: observe species that are biologically similar. Chimpanzees and baboons, with digestive systems much closer to our own, became far more reliable teachers than birds or grazing animals. Even then, observation was never proof. It was only the first clue in a much longer process of testing, remembering, and passing knowledge to the next generation. If you were alone in the wild, would you trust what an animal was eating, or would you still hesitate? Share your answer in the comments. For most of human history, there were no books, maps, or scientific journals. The only library that mattered was the human mind. Every safe route, every poisonous berry, and every medicinal leaf had to be remembered. And more importantly, shared before it was forgotten. That is why survival knowledge became stories, songs, rituals, and myths. Among Indigenous Australians, songlines have preserved vital knowledge for more than 5,000 years. These oral maps do far more than guide travelers across the landscape. They also identify water sources, edible plants, and places where dangerous species must never be touched. Communities also develop their own folk taxonomy, grouping plants by smell, texture, or visible traits rather than scientific names. A plant with milky sap, an unusual odor, or irritating hairs could instantly trigger caution. Some traditions were even more sophisticated. In Fiji, food taboos surrounding pregnancy and breastfeeding focused on fish species now known to carry marine toxins. Studies suggest these customs reduced poisoning risks by around 30% for pregnant women and up to 60% for breastfeeding mothers. This is why the death of an elder was more than a personal loss. It could mean the disappearance of an entire library of survival knowledge, wisdom that had taken countless generations and sometimes countless lives to build. What survival skill from today's world do you think future generations should never forget? Let us know in the comments. Our ancestors did not simply avoid dangerous plants. Sometimes, the most toxic foods were also the most valuable. Instead of walking away, they learned how to transform poison into nourishment. Take cassava, a root that can release deadly cyanide compounds if eaten raw. Indigenous communities developed a painstaking process. Grate it, soak it in running water for days, press out the liquid, then cook it thoroughly. Only then did it become a safe source of calories. The same ingenuity appeared with acorns. Rich in nutrients but loaded with bitter tannins, they were ground into flour and washed repeatedly with hot water until the bitterness disappeared. What remained was a reliable food that could sustain entire communities. History also reveals the cost of missing this knowledge. In 1861, British explorers Burke and Wills died during their Australian expedition with stomachs full of nardoo. They had found food, but not the Aboriginal method for processing it to prevent a compound from destroying vitamin B1 in the body. Above all, fire became humanity's greatest detoxification tool. Cooking neutralized many heat-sensitive toxins, unlocked up to 30% more energy from starches and as much as 78% more from egg protein, while reducing the work of digestion. That extra energy helped fuel one of evolution's greatest achievements: a larger, more powerful human brain. Which do you think changed human history more? Discovering fire or discovering how to use it to make dangerous foods safe? Share your opinion below. When you type continue, I'll write the final part with a strong conclusion, a call to subscribe, and a teaser for the next documentary. Today, we trust supermarkets, food labels, and safety regulations. Yet most of us could not identify a single poisonous plant growing nearby. Every vegetable, seed, and root we eat safely today represents thousands of years of observation, trial, failure, and survival. Behind every familiar meal are ancestors who risked their lives so future generations would know what was safe to eat. So the next time you sit down for dinner, remember, you are tasting the wisdom of an ancient living library. If you were stranded in the wilderness for 1 week, would you trust your instincts? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into our ancestors' survival secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More fascinating stories about ancient humans are coming soon.